Alright, so I have now watched the full Echoes of Sedona session, and I'm gonna offer my take on it, because I think I've cracked the code of what Bashar has been trying to do with this, and I see it much more clearly now. And it's important to watch the whole session, because he gives one 20-minute monologue in the intro, and then later on, after some questions, he gives another monologue which adds to that, and in the end there is an oracle situation, an oracle coming through that talks some sentences also. So, and some of the questions are also really important to get in this session. It's a session full of revelations and interesting stuff, so it's definitely worth checking out. And I have a link to the whole thing. You can look. It's on YouTube actually. You can watch it on YouTube. It's a hidden channel or a hidden video. But you follow the link below, you can check it out. And I definitely recommend that you watch the whole thing, and come back to my video after that maybe, because you need to see this first. It's too much for me to go into every detail about what he says in this video, because it's so much. But I'm gonna cover my take on it, like I promised. And I'm basically gonna look past the whole thing that he said. I mean, he claims he didn't say what he says, but he claims he didn't say the female will lead to open contact, the male will lead to the termination of the US and World War III. He says that he meant that male energy would lead closer to World War III situation, not that it would manifest. And that's obviously not really what he said. You can look, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, but the point is, what he really did with this was to troll the whole community. And the reason he decided to troll the people who are pro-Trump, I'm going to get to why he did that, because it's a pretty clever one. And I believe I cracked the code, because I didn't understand why he's always been so against Trump, seemingly from the beginning, and all these things, because, you know, Trump is basically the one who is an agent for change, for true radical change in the government and everything. So why is Bashar so against him, seemingly, with what he says in this, not only here, but also before, after the first election. But now I think I understand it, and I'm going to lay it out in this video. So please bear with me. It's going to be a little bit long maybe to get to all the points here, but the thing is, he trolled us in a perfect timing, because he knew that everybody was on edge of this election, because everybody perceived it to be really important for the future of humanity. So he picked the perfect timing to stir the pot, and he says this in the Echoes of Sedona session. He says it was the whole point. He clearly states that it was not Darrell Anka's bias or anything like that. He says that it was their message from Bashar. They wanted to say exactly what was said, which was the male will lead to World War III and the destruction or the termination of the US, which sounds very drastic, right? But he did it like in a trolling way. That's the whole point. He wanted to stir the pot and to engage the reaction from the whole community, and that's the whole idea of it. And I believe it's true. I don't believe it's bullshit. I actually believe I understand why he did it now. I'm going to explain it here. So I'm also going to explain why he chose to basically or seemingly troll the pro-Trump people and not the Kamala people, or whatever. And it's going to be pretty evident why he did that in that way. But I'm going to start with an important quote from the Echoes of Sedona transcript. He says at some point that you have entered the age of oligarchs. The people that you choose to put in positions within the government that you elect are not the people who are in terms running things. It's almost as it doesn't matter who you have elected, because there are so many things going on behind the scenes, and it will all come out in the coming years. So this, is a sneaky way of basically endorsing the whole Trump, MAGA, and QAnon and so-called conspiracy truth movement, right? He's basically saying the same thing as Trump and all these people, that the oligarchs are running the show behind the scenes, or have been. But he's saying it in such a way that, it's difficult for the people who don't like those things, the conspiracy maniacs who go crazy if they hear the word conspiracy, like many Bashar followers actually do. Because Bashar has told them to that basically engaging in conspiracy is like a no-no, you can't do that. And they take it like a religious dogma, and they forget that they also said you have to look into things deeply to find the truth. So by basically saying that the male or Trump is the one leading to World War III, he can safely say all these things that he's saying in this session, that is basically endorsing the whole narrative, or the whole, the same thing as Trump and the MAGA people are saying, that there's a deep state oligarchs that actually are running the show, and it doesn't matter, the election doesn't really matter. So it's a very clever way of putting that in there, and I'll get to why it's so clever later in this video, but that's what he said. So it's pretty similar to what I've been talking about on this channel for a long time. All these, the so-called conspiracy paradigm, it's real, it's just some people can't handle it, and many people in the Bashar followers are basically leftists. They are many of them in victim consciousness leftist mentality, and actually a large percentage of them have been that in my experience when I've just got into these different Bashar groups and discussed different things. I have experienced them to be extremely triggered when you mention Trump. So to me that's pretty obvious. Bashar cannot endorse Trump or tell the truth in a sense. He has to tailor his message to for these people to be able to digest it and handle it. He has to do that. He can't be honest completely because of all these people. Like a large percentage of these people are completely anti-Trump and frothing at the mouth. They can't handle even hearing his name, which is probably why he used the word the man or the male and the female instead of using the names. Because some of these people are so triggered that they can't even hear his name. And if Bashar had endorsed Trump, and even indirectly in any way, basically half his following, the heads would be exploding across the half of his following. They would be completely nuts. They would not be able to handle that. Which is why he had to do it like this, because the idea was to stir the pot, and by doing that, by triggering the MAGA people or the people who are pro-Trump, they will be able to handle it. Yes, it's a little bit upsetting for when you first hear it, and why is Bashar so stupid, can't he see the truth, and all these things. But MAGA people are generally much higher level of consciousness than the people who are still caught in the leftist victim paradigm, which is why by triggering the MAGA people, he's still stirring the pot, and they get to gauge and see the reaction, because it still touches the divide between basically the inflamed divide between the leftist and the MAGA people camps. And that was the whole point. He couldn't touch and provoke and troll the leftist side, because they would have gone crazy, and they would never have come back. They would basically be permanently damaged the whole thing, and a lot of his followers would basically just leave and never listen to him again and go completely crazy. So he couldn't do that, so he decided to instead to troll the people who can handle it. I mean, I got a little bit upset about it, but how long does it last, right? I don't shave my head and go do something crazy just because he said those things. I can handle it, and people on that side can handle it because they have a higher level of consciousness. It was still shocking to hear that he would say that, because you're used to getting truth and clarity from him, not being trolled, especially not when you're sort of. People have been anticipating this election for a long time, and he says something like that. It's a little bit upsetting, but that's about it. You can reflect on it. And that's exactly what he encourages people to do. He says forget about the election. It doesn't matter who won. First contact is still guaranteed to happen within the next 5 years. It doesn't matter. World War III is not really going to happen. It's just going to look like it's going to happen. You're going to get closer to World War III, like edging towards it a little bit because of certain things, but it's not really going to manifest anyway. So all in all, nothing has really changed. The only thing that maybe has changed, he says, is that because of the reaction to this, which is still going on, that the thing that was supposed to happen in the end of 2026, beginning of 2027, which also relates to first contact, that might have been postponed all the way up to 2028, 2029 instead, which is basically close to when first contact will happen with the UFOs all around the world. So that may be the only change because of this trolling, but it all depends on how, what happens after this, the aftermath. How do we handle it? And he is all about encouraging people to come together and actually get away from, or basically bridge the gap between the divide of in the community, especially because within the Bashar community there's a massive divide between those who are MAGA and pro-Trump and Truth Movement and all that, and those who are completely anti-Trump. And the whole idea is to bridge that gap, and you had to do that and initiate that by touching the inflamed basically wall between those two camps, which he has done successfully with this statement, right? So that's the whole thing. It's a sneaky way to get information in there and out there that actually, hey, the common so-called enemy is not really, the other side. It's not the MAGA people. It's not the leftist. It's the deep state behind it all. And it's not really the deep state, because the deep state is actually a manifestation of the inner deep state, the inner shadow that people have repressed, right? Which becomes a collective shadow, which I talk about a lot on this channel before and also write about in my book. So he doesn't say this explicitly, but it's implicit in what he says in many ways. So the whole point is that he encourages people to now go deeply in and actually look at stuff instead of just blindly believing. And that includes, obviously, if you think about it, includes go and look into Trump and look at all the hoaxes that the media have portrayed for him and made him look like he is bad when most of it is not even true. And it's not even about Trump as a person. It's just what he represents. And he represents the agent of change. He and his cabinet picks, all of which are pretty radical, changers of the status quo. Like the Doge department with Musk, right? It's going to cut off and slash away so much government waste, and the whole agencies are going to be removed basically from day one. They're going to reduce the big government, and that means the deep state, right? They're going to reduce and dismantle the deep state, because now we have all the people who have volunteered in this mission have successfully dismantled the collective shadow to such a degree that now we're going to see the physical manifestation of the dismantling of the deep state, which is the physical 3D manifestation of the collective shadow, the collective Lucifer, the collective negative ego, right? So that is what is happening, and Bashar hinted to this. You're gonna have pretty soon. You're gonna have revelations about who the real, who the oligarchs are, who the people behind the scene, who are actually been running things. He hints about all these things, which are basically, from the conspiracy paradigm, if you can call it that. But in this way, by triggering and targeting the MAGA people and seemingly make the Mail or Trump look bad in this way of saying it, he's actually geniusly been able to sneak in all this information that actually is in alignment with what the MAGA people and QAnon people and Trump and his cabinet picks are talking about now. Like the deep state is what has to be dismantled. And these people are basically just agents of that happening in 3D reality after it has already been happening on a higher level, like in the mental plane or in the blueprint levels of reality. And now it's going to manifest on the actual 3D stage. So this is what Bashar has seen and knows that, we have already passed the threshold. It's guaranteed to happen. It's guaranteed to have he repeats this, it's guaranteed to have first contact within the next 5 years. So it's all guaranteed, which is why he could afford to take that risk of triggering people like that and, basically touching the whole divide to make a stir and basically facilitate the potential healing and bridging of the gap between the two camps, because now it's time for, as more and more people are waking up, it's going to spread more and more. A lot of Democrats are actually joining the Trump camp, right? Elon Musk and Kennedy were both Democrats for their whole life before Trump and before all this, and they have joined him and many other people too who used to be Democrats, right? So the bridging is already happening on the world stage with the Trump MAGA movement. It's a bridging of the gap. It's an example of how it can be done, because these people have met Trump, they have seen interviews with him, like the Rogan interview, and they know that he is not the Hitler and the bad guy that media has portrayed him as, right? Because the media is basically just a propaganda machine for the deep state. So the bridging of the gap is actually happening on the world stage because Trump was elected. But obviously Bashar could not say that. He could not in any way endorse Trump or even hint that Trump is good, because so much of his following are actually leftist people who have been brainwashed by the media, and have also brainwashed themselves using Bashar's teaching to brainwash themselves. And one big way they're doing this is that they always the mantra of, I create my own reality. Whatever you talk to these people, they always come back to that. And okay, you believe whatever I want, I create my own reality, I create my own reality. It's like a mantra for these people. They always say that, repeat that all the time. I create my own reality, okay. I cannot do, nothing can touch me because I create a prison around myself, and I protect myself with creating my own reality so nobody can touch me. So I don't have to feel any pain. That's basically what they're doing. So they have this mantra going that if you try to talk to these people like I've done before, they always go back to that, protect themselves with that mantra, like, whatever happens in the world, I can vote for whoever I want, nothing matters because I create my own reality. But the truth is, you don't create your own reality, and Bashar has said as much too. The physical incarnation, the physical mind, is not designed to create anything. It's designed to experience what happens. The higher mind is what actually creates the reality that you live in. The higher mind, and of course also your level of consciousness. The level of consciousness you have achieved is what creates your reality, is what manifests your reality. It's not your wishful thinking in your head that creates your reality, like many of these Bashar people think, because they are basically using that to escape reality. They think they can just think away in wishful thinking, basically like a child, to wishful make believe their own reality. They can live in a little bubble, which is basically psychotic, or at least very imbalanced, or very immature in many ways, and also very out of touch with reality, so to speak. I mean, believing that if you say you create your own reality, if you actually did create your own reality, you wouldn't even have to say it. The fact that they repeat it all the time means they don't really believe in it themselves. They're just using it as an excuse or as a way to cope, basically. But so it's difficult. How do you reach such people? How do you bridge the gap which people are so insistent on these things and so anti-Trump, frothing at the mouth? It's difficult. But this is actually what Bashar is saying. Okay, this is actually what Bashar is saying. He is talking mostly to these people. He's not talking to the MAGA people who initially he triggered by this message. He's actually addressing mostly the people who are anti-Trump, but it's done in such a subtle and sneaky way that he's basically sneaking it in and forcing them to sort of take in stuff, at least into the subconscious mind first, and then maybe it will start to take root and as things develop. But it's basically he's targeting that side of his following. He's not targeting the MAGA people or the pro-Trump people at all, really. That's just the initial triggering sentence, because he couldn't trigger the leftist side because it would damage his whole following forever, basically lose more than half his following, probably would never return. So he had to do it like this. And he encouraged people to really look into what he's saying and to look deeply. And if you do that like I've done now, then you will see these things. At least if you have an open mind and somewhat neutral eyes to view it. If you're completely anti-Trump and you can't handle thinking from different perspectives, then you will not see it at this point. But that's what I see, and it's actually genius to do it like this, because it forces a whole new way of seeing things, a new perspective into the whole dynamic between the two camps. And I believe it's going to change a lot of stuff if people take this to heart and they actually look into it really. But it requires that these people are willing to do what he says, which is to actually look much deeper into things and go to the root and go to the actual source of everything and look into it and de-brainwash themselves to a large degree. Otherwise they will miss the train that leads to open contact and the golden age unless they're willing to do this, because you can't be, let's put it this way, if Trump triggers you, what do you think is going to happen if you meet ETs? What do you think they are going to bring up in you? Trump is nothing compared to this and the energy you get from these beings. And if you can't handle that, if you can't handle Trump, you have a big problem when it comes to handling anything like ET contact. So that's and it's obvious if you look at it with neutral eyes. It's also obvious which side of the political spectrum are off balance and unhinged, and has been like that since Trump won in 2016. At the same time, Bashar predicted that everything would start to change in 2016. So, how can you have change, true radical change, if you have no agent of change? And Trump has become that agent of change. The first term of Trump was basically to act like a wrecking ball, to break a hole in the whole Babel Tower of corruption, so that all could spill out and be exposed for the whole world to see. In tandem with the whole Q movement, to expose, and which basically woke up millions and millions of people, that whole thing. And then you had to have a pause in between, because things became too unhinged on the left side. They became too crazed by this, so you had to throw in the fake presidency of Biden, which if you look into it, looks like this Biden guy has been wearing different masks, and sometimes he's a head taller than he used to be, and suddenly in his farewell speech he's talking like a young guy again, and it doesn't sound like a feeble old man. Suddenly he sounds really happy and confident, and can talk like a regular young guy, and his walk, when he walks off the stage, he doesn't stumble and fall. He walks like a young guy. So this guy has been wearing masks. Okay, there's been Bashar basically says it straight. He says it's been all a play act. The whole election political system is a play act. He says it almost directly in the session. So the whole Biden presidency has been an act. So basically the military or whatever white hat has been in control in the background, and all these deep state puppets have been allowed to play their role to a certain degree. So to show humanity certain things, they need to reflect it back to them, so they can see what would happen if we go down that path. And humanity answered the call, and they voted for Trump in a big landslide, luckily. And it's not going to lead to World War III. It's not going to lead to anything bad. It's just the way Bashar had to do it and say it, because he can't basically explode the heads of his of more than 50% of his base or of his following by endorsing Trump in any way. But now he's snuck this whole narrative into the community, and they can't really escape to not hearing that. So if they see this session, they will have to take this into consideration, and hopefully it will facilitate some kind of bridging between the divide and people. He encouraged people to talk together now and really to listen and try to look things from the view of the other side, and not be so stubborn on your own perspective. And he's basically talking mostly to the leftist side, because they are the ones who are like that. I'm on the MAGA side. I've been on the MAGA side not because I'm political. It's just I see what's beneficial for the collective, for humanity, and I believe the Trump cabinet team and everything he's been doing, exposing the deep state, dismantling the deep state, is obviously beneficial, and it's also really fun. It's much more fun to have the Doge department, which is hilarious, with Elon Musk dismantling all those agency with a dog meme logo, right? It's hilarious. It's great. And imagine if Kamala Harris won. You would never have any Doge department. You would not have any of this, right? You would have more of the same like you got with Biden, more of the deep state, more corruption, more inflation, all that nonsense. So imagine that. Obviously that is not the best for humanity, even though Bashar trolled us by saying that, hey, he will lead to World War III, whatever. It's not going to happen. He says as much. It's not going to be any World War III. It's not going to, we can have first contact within the next 5 years anyway. It doesn't matter who got elected, but it does matter because it's much more fun with the Trump cabinet and watching the whole deep state being dismantled by dog memes. It's much more fun than anything else. So, this timeline is great. as far as I'm concerned, and there is no reason to be upset about it, because we have defeated, or mostly defeated, the collective negative ego by now. And now we get to lean back and watch it play out and manifest on the 3D world stage, right? So that's my whole my take on this whole thing. Basically, I mean, it's gonna be amazing to watch, and I really hope that the Bashar followers and people on the left who are, who endorsed Kamala Harris or whatever, those kind of people can actually now start to listen to Bashar's message and actually take to heart and look deeper inside, because Trump is teaming up with Kennedy. I mean, he used to be a leftist guy. He used to be a favorite on the left side, right? And many other Democrats. It's already bridging the gap on that stage. So now it's time for the people to do the same. The people who follow Bashar, and now you have to go in and de-brainwash yourself. You have to look at the fruit of the tree. The tree can be ugly. What matters is the fruits of the tree. Are the fruits good? Did Trump start any wars in his first term? Did he become a dictator? Did he do anything with women's rights? Did he do anything that they claim he would do? Or did he try to basically create peace in the Middle East and peace between the South and North Korea and all sorts of stuff that actually is good? Did he start zero wars? He tried to withdraw from different wars in Middle East. He did everything he could to help and do the best for humanity as best he could. And, with all odds against him and all the deep state against him and the whole COVID situation against him, right? And all that stuff. So, I mean, you have to look at the fruits of what... It's not about the person, Trump. It's not about who, if you like him or not, doesn't matter. It's what he represents, what he is an agent of, him and his team, which is, have people from both sides of the political spectrum now. He and his team, what are they agents of? They're agents of complete and radical change and slimming down the government and all the waste and dismantling the deep state and creating a golden age with actual looking at... I mean, Kennedy is going to look into not only the corruption of the whole big pharma stuff and all these things, it is also going to address the real root cause issues of why all sorts of diseases have exploded in the last 50 years. Something that never has happened before on a global scale like this. It's always been throw more medicine, throw more drugs at the problem and make more money, and then, it just increases the problem and it makes it worse. That has been the norm up until now. And now you're suddenly hearing these people talk, okay, we're going to look at all the corruption of big pharma, we're going to actually look at the root cause of what is causing all these diseases, and we're going to do it in a scientific and real way. And, we're going to address the real root cause issues. That's completely, unheard of before this. You have to take that into consideration. This is a great development. And that's just a start. I think it's going to go really quickly when, like Musk is saying now, it's going to go really quickly when they get started. You're going to see massive changes basically in the first months and year of when they get started. I mean, Trump is already trying to negotiate peace between Russia and Ukraine, right? He's not even in office, and they're already talking with him about it and agreeing with him, and all these good things, while Biden on the way out is allowing long-distance missiles to be sent by Ukraine into Russia, basically trying to trigger World War III. So who is trying? I mean, okay, Trump might lead to World War III or getting close to it on the surface, at least what it looks like. I know it's going to happen anyway, but maybe because if Kamala Harris won, they wouldn't have done that, maybe, or whatever, but who cares? It's not going to trigger any World War III anyway, and it's not Trump doing it. It actually is, it's Biden on the way out in a desperate little attempt or whatever show it is to show people something that, that he is the one who is trying to do it. So the whole thing doesn't stand scrutiny if you look deeply into it, that the man or Trump is trying to, or going to lead to World War III. And Bashar says that, hey, he didn't mean that, he didn't mean it would lead to World War III definitively, even though that's pretty much what he said. But he had to say it like that to troll people, otherwise it wouldn't have the effect. So it basically now is just saying that, hey, it will lead in the direction of World War III, which is what we have been seeing because of the escalation with the deep state trying to do that before Trump gets in so he can fix the whole problem from day one, basically. So that's my take on it. I'm pretty optimistic and positive about it now, and because I cracked the code of what Bashar is actually doing. I mean, he's just super smart and he sees things from a higher perspective than we do. So, I hope this video clarifies things and it helped people, because I think you have to, like he said, you have to look deeply into this. You can't take it on the surface, what he said in this session. You have to watch the whole thing maybe a few times, digest it, look into it. And, then you can listen to my video one more time or whatever. If you don't agree with me, or it doesn't matter to me really, but you can leave your comments in the comment field below if you want, and, we'll see. But that's the best I can do to give my take on it. And it also explains why Bashar has been doing what he's been doing with this, and I think it's a really good thing. It will end up really good when we see it play out. So until next time. My new ebook, Unmasking the Ego, goes into great detail about the root cause of suffering, negativity and evil, and also how this plays out on the world stage. You also gain complete clarity about the levels of consciousness, and you will discover the fastest way to unconditional love, or the higher 500s on the scale of consciousness. So hit the link below to grab your copy today.